Alright, deck profile time, and we are back with our series Instincts of Isaiah.
Yep.
How's it going, man? It's been a while.
Yep, all good. Finally done with my weird intervention nonsense. The Prophet is back from Spooky Town and all that other good shit. I came back and I actually picked up a weird deck I had pretty much no idea how to play. Finished building it more or less before the tournament started, just kind of last minute, and that being Elementsabers. And honestly, just to go right into things, most important card of the deck, first and foremost, Palace. Field spell, it does pretty much everything for the entire deck, as far as the ditching, using your effects, and setting up your combos. You don't open this, you cry.
Yep.
In the same vein, terraforming to get to it. And to just continue with the spell cards, triple instant fusion. The funny thing about instant fusion is we still have targets like Thousand Fires Restricts, as well as things that help you go into your Isolde combos and into rank 3s with Invoker, etc.
Yep.
That still make instant fusion really good to run. And we're also running the Scorpio combo to go ahead and search extra copies of it, as well as to go into Invoker and keep combos going, to fill up all the different attributes that you need in your graveyard, and to get shit out of deck rather than relying on your hand draws. So this actually allows you to be really flexible with what you're going against. Probably like the second most MVP card in the deck, because you can just move around whatever you're going up against.
Sorry, 1 second.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Upside down shuffling, right? Next up is Moon Mirror Shield and freaking Divine Sword for the Isolde dump, as well as for the free Discord fodder and for the ability to get over things. The kind of annoying thing I had today was that I almost won against a Mermail Paler in time, but literally the only problem I had is that when I went to go into battle phase and go into time, I had forgotten to summon one of the smaller boss monsters of the deck to protect me while I went into go for game. So he literally just firewall spun me out of the water during time, when I literally just had to summon another monster and go for game, which would have been great. But you know, that's why I am here and not already having freaking won. Regardless, speaking of beat sticks, Monoglacia for the free -2 on your opponent going first. Gaia for the extended plays, and because he's a big old beat stick. Didn't really go into him, though I probably had a couple of chances to go into him. Want to play with him a lot more. Might end up just teching him out for things like Dad or BLS, just to have bigger beat sticks I have easier access to. Phosphorage, probably the beat stick I use the most out of the lot of them right now, because he's simply put just a Raigeki. Even when you can't attack, it's just like boom, wipe board. And then the reason I actually got into this deck in the first place was Elemental Grey Storiato. Easiest thing, 6 different attributes, free 3k beat stick, and then it negates summons with ease. Not to mention, with field spell on board, it becomes a 42 beat stick, so just big ass fucking waifu. Moving on from there, we have the main combo starter, that is Apply Lumana. Summon him by sending 2 Elementsabers from deck when you have field spell, and you just kind of start all of your things by having your graveyard set up already for you. In the same vein, with that graveyard setup, you then have Aina, who special summons them back from the grave, so that you can go ahead and freaking keep going with the rest of your league shenanigans. Normally, your preferred target after Aina would be then going into Makani, so you could go ahead and search. That way you could go ahead and go into each of your different boss monsters and the like. Sadly, not Elemental Grace. I wish that was a search target. That would be freaking awesome. Next up, you have the only super minor monster that you would really like to sit on, and that's Molehu. Reason is he's essentially a Book of Moon, and using the field spell, you never run out of fuel for it. So if you have nothing that you can do and you just completely brick to the absolute ends of the earth, you have that, you are at least fine sitting, along with maybe something else. But point being, 1900 Book of Moon is not the worst thing you could be sitting on. Next up are a couple of targets that are in here practically just for attribute and name. That is Laplila, who is light spell or trap negation, but you next to never have a use for it because it's just not easy enough to summon and not worth summoning when you have bigger combos to go into. Next up, Nalu, who recycles things, but more often than not you will search off of Isolde just to dump to the graveyard, because you won't have to change its attribute in grave so that you can summon Monoglacia. Next up, Malo, even more so in here just for his attribute, as he is a Foolish Burial in a deck that the field spell already works as a Foolish Burial. Next up is the Scorpios that we were talking about earlier. Scorpios and the Darlington. And then to finish off the deck is the Invoker target, which right now is a proxy because I don't know why, but I could not find my 1,000 Blades just to go ahead and summon, serve as an extra layer of protection, and again, just to be an Invoker target in general. Which pretty much rounds off the entire thing. The deck literally just runs pretty much the same combos over and over again so that it can just keep churning through its same engine to do the same beat sticks.
Sure.
The deck's honestly just like a soft OTK deck, though it didn't really mean to try and become that. Cleaning all this nonsense up really quickly so we can go ahead and go into the extra deck. Wait. Really quickly, apparently not in my hands fucking dictionary. Most important card from the extra deck, obviously, the Solde. It's a free summon for your Aina or your Makani, so you can get your surges and your summons and continue link climbing. Next up, you have the basic Nightmare setups with the Goblin, the Cerberus, and the Phoenix. I only really found myself going into Cerberus, and that's simply because I only really had to deal with monsters today. The only reason I would have gone into Phoenix would have been spot removal against a Paleo player, but I didn't have enough ease to actually bother going into it. And as far as the Goblin goes, it's more there just so you can overextend a little bit. And then the instant fusion targets being Thousand Eyes Restrict and Dragoness helps you go into your link 3s like or level 3s like Invoker. Obviously as a warrior, so it works for your Solde. And Thousand Eyes Restrict, so you can work around other monsters and different shit like that. The Invoker. And the card I pulled today, and is probably the only reason I was even able to do decent with the deck, because I didn't have any Link 4s really to work with the deck right now, being Beauregard Dragon, which is working as the only real extra deck boss monster I had on hand. If I had more and better Link 4s to go into, obviously that's what I would be using, but luckily I pulled that, and that was working pretty fucking heavy overtime to make up for all of that.
That's pretty good.
Right? But yeah, no, that wraps everything up. As I said, this was last minute put together, so there's just not much else to it than that.
Alright, and what was your best matchup of the night, would you say, bro?
My best match of the night was probably against the Mermail player that I mentioned earlier. It was just a heavy back and forth the entire game.
Sure.
It was literally just one of us set up, one of us breaks forward, one of us loses, one of us set up, one of us breaks forward, one of us sets up again, one of us loses, etc. Till it hit time, and I made the slightest bloody misplay to end up losing the match. So literally just tweak one thing and I would have won that, and that probably would have made that even better.
Well, there's always next time, bro.
Yep.
Alright, thanks for the deck profile. We'll see you guys next time. And until next time, complete your extra deck.